I'm Eric Jones, Police Chief for the City of Stockton, and the purpose of today's press conference is to update the public and community on the investigation and new information and to discuss where things go from here. This is preliminary information as the overall investigations will take some time, but I have a duty and a responsibility as a community leader and as the police chief to provide some additional information today. Our preliminary information confirms what was suspected from the outset, that Misty Holt-Singh died from gunshots fired by police officers as they confronted the bank robbers who used her as a human shield. I again express my condolences to the Misty Singh family, and my thoughts go out to all others involved during the July 16th incident. Every member of our department is deeply saddened that this event ended with the tragic death of an innocent victim, and every one of us wishes this tragedy had ended differently. Because of this incident, begun by the armed assailants with no regard for human life, it threw Stockton off balance, off our feet. But we regain our stance and move forward as a community working together to combat crime and make for a safer place for all. It was a little over 3 weeks ago that 4 suspects committed an atrocious crime. One perpetrator drove the 3 others, heavily armed, to the Bank of the West on Thornton Road, where the unthinkable occurred. The 3 assailants committed a forceful takeover robbery, violently took 3 civilian hostages, shooting one only minutes into the overall event, and then began a vehicle pursuit while all the while firing a high-powered assault rifle at police. This was during busy daytime hours on busy freeways and busy city streets. Constant gunfire came from the assailants during the 61-minute and 55-mile incident, covering 2 cities and freeways and streets between them. And 14 police vehicles were struck by the assailants' bullets. Many people and unknowing bystanders were in constant peril. There were many other potential victims. During the chase, many police vehicles were involved, but this was not a vehicle pursuit. It was much more than that, more than we've ever experienced. It was a rolling active shooter incident, constantly putting the public and officers in danger without knowing where it would conclude or how, nor how many scenes there would be or how many locations would be potentially taken over by the suspects. We had tactical officers, medics, containment units, hostage negotiators, etc., for the continually moving critical scene. We know the assailants fired over 100 bullets during the incident. We know the assailants were not even halfway through their ammo supply by the time the incident ceased and the assailants were stopped. They had about 200 unexpended and unfired rounds, bullets, still in the vehicle. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, one of the 3 hostages was killed that day based on the root cause of the armed assailants' atrocious crime and behavior. As has been noted before, we believe July 16, 2014 brought dynamics never before seen in law enforcement. We wanted, but never had the opportunity for hostage negotiations. The assailants were violent and attempted killing officers very early on. They also harmed a hostage very early on. And then a barrage of gunfire from them continued. The violent ongoing incident was never contained like most situations in law enforcement. This was more similar to a continual active shooter situation than anything else. Even when the officers backed off so far to where they unfortunately lost sight of them for a time, the assailants set up for an attempt fatal ambush on officers instead of just trying to get away. To say the dynamics here were unique is an understatement. The scene was never static, never contained. The armored vehicle was disabled after being shot numerous times, and when the tire was disabled due to that particular vehicle not being designed for pursuits. There was a continual attempt to kill the officers, and we had concerns that they would take over another location or multiple locations, including a business or schools. The assailants' fire was also indiscriminate, putting the entire community at risk. And the bravery and courage shown by the Stockton Police Department staff cannot be overlooked. The officers did not waver from entering danger. They proceeded on, even while under fire. Shooting and stopping the assailants was unavoidable. To the extent that exactly played out is and will be reviewed. That's what we do in law enforcement. We review and evaluate always. The investigation is ongoing, and we are still researching and analyzing violent confrontations. But again, this appears to have dynamics seen nowhere before in recent law enforcement history. We don't want to be the example for this dynamic, but we are. And we and all of law enforcement hope to learn from it. Regarding the fourth perpetrator involved in this incident, we have been getting tips, but we still need someone to come forward with actionable information. Please remember, there is a $50,000 reward. We need this community to step forward. We know people are out there who know the information that we need. I will now go into today's additional information that I'm releasing. I said earlier we have preliminary ballistic reports. Regarding Misty Holt-Singh, we know the family had questions, the community had questions, and the police department had questions. So this preliminary portion of the investigation is being revealed. Final reports will not be ready for some time. Preliminary investigation indicates that the fatal gunshot wound or wounds for her came from Stockton police officers' firearms. As I said earlier, the assailants fired over 100 bullets during this incident and had approximately 200 bullets remaining that they had not fired yet. They were prepared to continue their assault on law enforcement and anyone else who got in their way with those over 200 additional bullets. During the entire incident, Stockton Police Department officers fired approximately 600 bullets. This was 33 police officers at different points throughout this 1-hour event. Early indications of the investigation also show Misty Holt-Singh was shot about 10 times. That is consistent with the cowardice act by the surviving and uninjured assailant as using her as a shield. Regarding the ballistics from the assailant's weapons, we have information on the AK-47, the primary assault weapon used among the 3 other handguns that the assailants also used during this incident. Preliminary reports show that the AK-47 assault rifle was possibly used in multiple gang-related shootings over the past few years, one being a gang-related homicide. There are active investigations with the FBI, the protocol team, and an outside review of tactics, policies, and procedures that can assist us and all of law enforcement. There is an FBI joint investigation regarding the bank robbery and the assailant's specific crimes. There is a county-wide protocol investigation led by the district attorney. And there will also be an external review of tactics and procedures by a team of outside law enforcement experts. Again, shooting and stopping the heavily armed assailants was unavoidable. To the extent that exactly played out is and will be reviewed. The review will be thorough and open. We are looking at things such as communication and fire control. With over 15,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States, none in recent history seeing what we experienced July 16th, and God forbid one of them experience something like this, we want to be transparent and look at best practices for all of us in law enforcement. Although we probably saved more lives and more hostages from being taken, for all persons involved, and in honor of Misty Holt-Singh, we will examine and re-examine July 16th to look for best practices, protocols, procedures, tactics, and potential training. The investigation is going to go where the investigation takes it. It will be thorough and complete. The review will be for Stockton Police Department, but also to benefit law enforcement everywhere. Law enforcement work is dangerous. I want to point out that our community's Stockton police officers took a barrage of bullets, but they kept going. They remained courageous and brave and put their lives at risk. I am so grateful for that kind of courage. I have no doubt that the assailants, if not stopped, would have caused even far more violence. I'm also proud of our police dispatchers who held poise under great stress. But this was an unspeakable human tragedy. Our department, our officers have had difficulty with this situation as well, and we all understand the gravity. No one else, more than the Stockton Police Department, wants all of the information and details as we look at this. On July 16th, Misty Holt Singh went to the bank and did not get to come home. I have met with her husband, Paul, and other family, and my deep condolences and thoughts are still with them. My thoughts will always be with them. It is important to all of law enforcement and the Stockton community that we capture all involved people in this horrible and tragic incident. Please remember there is a reward, and we need the community's help capturing the fourth perpetrator involved in this tragedy. My personal belief is that the assailants were intent on killing people, definitely police officers on that day. And whether to stop them or not was not an option. They had to be stopped. We witnessed that date 3 types of incidents all layered into one. It was a group of events that just don't happen in real life as we knew it before that date. And finally, it is so very important to investigate this incident fully, for your police department to be transparent about it, and to move forward as a community. I will now take some questions.
Chief, when the car finally came to a stop, was there a moment when gunfire wasn't coming towards officers in which there was a chance to everybody catch their breath, communicate with them, and then prevent what happened? Or was there never a break?
Our information actually shows that when the vehicle came to its resting stop location, there was immediate gunfire from that vehicle, which then prompted the return fire.
People in this town are still stunned at what happened. Just this weekend, I'm talking with friends. Why couldn't they have stopped it at the start? And you may have already addressed this a couple of weeks ago, but can you go back over that? What were your people facing at the bank that they couldn't stop it then?
So that's the type of question that often gets prompted in these situations in law enforcement. There's always second guessing, and of course it's even all the more when it's as tragic as the situation we had now. We are looking at everything from A to Z, and we will be looking at all actions throughout the entire event. But it's important to know that this was unique from the very beginning. The fact that it wasn't just a regular bank robbery. They were heavily armed with tons of ammunition, and the actions they took from points A to Z never really made sense. The officers there at the scene had to make some decisions, as in law enforcement, split-second decisions, and they are weighing one of 100 things in their mind, and one of them is if 3 armed assailants come out, all with the weaponry, if they don't have the clear shots, then they might not be able to take action at that time, and they're hoping for a successful resolution at some other point between A and Z. So in summary, we'll be looking at everything.
The fourth suspect, do you believe this person is still in Stockton?
I don't exactly know where this person is. We do believe that people out there know who this fourth suspect is. We first need to identify this person, and we need actionable information. We've received a lot of tips, but we need actionable information that really ties them to the case. And after we identify them, then we will locate them. And if we need assistance from the public to locate them, we'll be putting that out to the media.
Chief, isn't this really unusual for you to be giving this much information this soon in an investigation like this? Because these things can take years in some cases.
In this case, the full investigation will take a long time. We just felt, because of the questions from the community, from Misty's family, from within our police department, I felt, as my position as police chief, if I knew certain information, that information needed to go out. And we will continue to evaluate all the information we get, especially as we look at tactics, policies, procedures over the long course. But this is information I felt important to go ahead and put out as soon as possible.
Chief, why did you feel it was important to put it out? Are you trying to add a layer of transparency to this investigation?
Absolutely, we're being transparent about this investigation. And because there were so many questions out there, and this was such critical information, we knew, since we knew it, we didn't want the information to come from anywhere else but the Stockton Police Department. And this is information that I did share with Misty's family before having this press conference. It was important for them to know about what I was going to say today before it was said.
Have you been able to determine how the suspect that was in the car that survived, how he was able to survive that onslaught of bullets?
The investigation will show, but one thing we do know was his clear cowardice act of using Misty as a shield. And so that certainly probably had a lot to do with why he had no gunshot injuries on him.
What makes you think somebody's out there that knows something about this fourth suspect?
Based on tips coming in, we believe that there are more people that know more information. And it's our hope that they come forward as soon as possible.
You said the AK-47 had been used in another homicide, and which one?
It looks, preliminary investigation shows that there was a very high likelihood that it's been involved in multiple gang-related shootings over the past few years here in the Stockton area and possibly a homicide. We haven't had the thorough link yet enough to put that information out. When we're able to, we will.
Chief, so many officers fired on this car at the final shootout. Did they receive any type of order from one of their lieutenants to say, if you have a clear shot, take it, and that's why so many shot at the car? Or was it in the moment, that's how many officers fired?
The information we do have, we're still pouring through all of it, is that we had 33 officers, there were more officers on scene, but 33 officers that were at a position. For whatever reason, we have to consider the mindset of each individual officers and what they know they're doing and what they're not really certain what other officers are doing. They were in a position of they were where they were when the barrage of AK-47 fire came at them, and they're trained to return fire to stop the threat.
Chief,
So
during the
beyond that, it's still under investigation.
You had said 10 bullets struck Misty.
Yes.
Can you tell how many different guns were used?
That's all still preliminary. I do have information that they were police rounds, but exactly, well, I should say beyond that, that'll be some time. The coroner's report is not even complete.
Chief, during the robbery, at one point, did the three of them leave the bank without a hostage and then go back into the bank where they got the hostages?
No. We have very clear, what we think is very clear information that when all three came out, all three had a hostage.
At any point were two of them, according to witnesses, maybe willing to start getting down and surrendering?
We've had no evidence to show that, and these are based on statements and other video evidence. We do believe, or we do know that some citizenry were coming up to the bank and were told to get on the ground, and the officer put himself between them and the danger. We do know that that occurred.
The woman that was shot, has she told you that she was shot accidentally?
We don't know whether she was shot accidentally, but we fully briefed her and have her statement.
Chief has time for 2 more questions.
Chief, this was traumatic, obviously, for the entire community. What about your department? How are your officers coping?
So they have, there's a lot of sadness for the Misty family, and they are having a hard time with it as well. Yes, they were under an immense amount of danger. They took bullets, and yes, we sign up for law enforcement, but that is something that is of concern to the department. But the biggest concern is they're upset about the tragic situation as well, and they, like me, are outraged at the actions that those 3 assailants did to create this situation that ultimately led to Misty's death.
How many departments have you heard from around the country wondering just what your guys went through so that they can learn for their own situations?
Quite a few. So
Number?
we've, well over a dozen,
Oh.
as far as law enforcement agencies that would like to be involved in finding out the debriefing. Basically, they want to know the after-action report and what it said, and again, just like Stockton Police Department, all of law enforcement wants to know how we can learn from it.
This concludes our press conference, so thank you for coming.
Thank you.